Welcome everyone to the Cyber Leadership Institute webinar on the use of AI in enhancing cyber resilience. Now, AI is not a new topic, although it feels a bit like that when you speak to a lot of people who've recently discovered it, just because of the fact that they have come across ChatGPT, which was actually launched in November last year. It feels like it's been around forever, but it's only been launched November last year. So 2023 has really been sort of the year of AI in the public consciousness. Although when you speak to a lot of people, when you mention AI, they immediately think ChatGPT, or when you talk about the use of AI, people think ChatGPT is all that there is. And the reality is obviously a lot different. AI, artificial intelligence, has been around for a long time. In fact, the history of AI is more than 50 years old, if you look at the history. I was personally first introduced to the concept of AI in the early 1990s when a friend of mine left his job as an IT auditor at in those days, Coopers & Lybrand, which is a predecessor firm of PwC, to start a trading fund which was based on a neural network. And I thought, what is this neural network thing? And he explained it to me, and then I got really interested in the topic, started studying it, and was really totally amazed by the technology that was even available at that time. If you think back to the early 90s and what technology was like, the fact that we had practical applications of AI in the trading environment, even at that time, is quite amazing. And the fact that he could even convince people to give him money to put into a fund was even more, given that he was only 25 years old at the time. AI has moved on a lot since then. In fact, every day when you use any technology, in fact, anything we use in our daily lives, it probably has some element of AI built into it, whether it's your car navigation system or autonomous driving, or if you have a predictive maintenance system, or if you're just dealing with a chatbot on a website or a recommendation engine, or you go to Netflix and it tells you what the next movie is that you're probably going to like. It's all AI. And so, why are we still talking about AI and cybersecurity if it's everywhere? And the same thing applies to some extent to AI in cybersecurity. AI has been in cybersecurity for quite some time. And almost every advanced cybersecurity technology has some element of AI built into it. And even some of the not so advanced cybersecurity technologies have some level of AI built into it. So it is everywhere, but that doesn't mean it's being used well and it's being used effectively. In fact, a lot of the money being spent on AI, I worked with a company in Germany that invested in AI startups, and they said, where typical startups have a success rate, technology startups have a success rate of about 1 in 10. In AI, it's more like 1 in 20. So a lot of AI investments are not making money, whether that's a startup investment or investments in big companies, because they experiment good ideas, but they might not turn out to be successful. So in that context, how do we as cybersecurity professionals, as cyber leaders, think about AI in cybersecurity? How do we know whether if someone says they've got AI, it is real AI, it actually works? And to enlighten us on the topic, we've got two very experienced professionals from SentinelOne this evening to take us on a journey with AI. In the first instance, we've got Pratik Bajanka. He's the APJ Field CISO at SentinelOne. He's been in cybersecurity quite a long time, was a Gartner analyst, was an author of the Magic Quadrants around things like endpoint security, cloud security, digital forensics, etc. So he's really been in the cybersecurity field for quite some time. And currently is serving as I said, the APJ Field CISO at SentinelOne, and is responsible for helping security leaders like you on the audience to help increase your cyber resilience. Our other speaker is Wayne Phillips. Wayne is the Director of Security Engineering for SentinelOne in ANZ. He has more than 25 years of enterprise security strategy and product development experience from both the startup side as well as in large technology companies. And his main role is to help organizations understand and adopt the SentinelOne technology as a foundational XDR technology. And hopefully you all know what XDR is, helping them integrate SentinelOne into their security operations to achieve some business benefits. But that's enough from me talking about them. I might just kick off by asking Pratik and Wayne a few questions just so you can get to know them. So Pratik, maybe start with you. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe how did you, as a young professional engineer, get into the field of cybersecurity?
Okay, that's interesting. I would say it all happened very accidentally, to be very transparent here. So I was working for a project in one of the ITS company where, as a part of the project management and project delivery, we had to enable, or we have to make the project enable the access across MPLS from the ITS company to the client side. That's where I came across security, where I was responsible for reviewing the security changes that we were making on the firewall and understanding whether this, what kind of risk it would pose to the company, the client, and the service provider alike, and understand how can we have compensatory controls around it. So that was my beginning of journey in cybersecurity. And I'm sure majority of the folks on the other side may also have started their journey with network security, playing with firewalls and routers and switches. And that's how it started with me as well. And there is no looking back. I thank my boss from that time who trusted me with this responsibility. And, I love every bit here.
And you caught the bug like most cybersecurity professionals. Great to hear. Wayne, maybe a slightly different question. When did you first come across the use of AI, not necessarily in cybersecurity, but just the practical use of AI?
Probably in cybersecurity. I think it was 2012 or 2011, 2012 that Silence came out with the static AI engine. Like I'd seen models and played with them myself, but they never really worked like they're supposed to. But they had a large enough sample set, and they produced a static AI model, which kind of revolutionized how we do detection and protection these days. So that just took the endpoint protection market and spun it on its head. So that was the first. And in Silo kind of did something very similar with behavioral analytics and EDR telemetry, so you could actually see the attack chain play out. Which before it was, you saw something bad and it went red and you try to clean it up, and now you could see a whole attack chain play out. So it kind of was very revolutionary at the time.
No, very interesting stories, and I think again, if I think back to my first introduction to AI, at the time when you look at it the first time, you think this is amazing stuff, and then gradually you sort of get used to it, and you think, oh, it's just another technology. But maybe just a bit of logistics first. So Pratik will spend 10 to 15 minutes just giving us a bit of an overview of what does the landscape look like at the moment for the use of AI in cybersecurity, and specifically, what does it do? What does it help you to do as a business? Because it's great fun. It's nice toys to play with, but at the end of the day, we all need to deliver value. We all need to demonstrate value to our stakeholders, and we all need to deliver some business outcomes. And then after that, Wayne will really roll his sleeves up a bit and show us a demo of what it looks like in practice. So not just talk about what it is, but show us how it works, looking at a few specific use cases around detection, and then also around threat hunting, and then maybe a little bit of a surprise in addition to that as well. Maybe just to mention, we will have time for questions at the end. If we run out of time, we will address them separately afterwards with a post in the hub to respond to all your questions. So even if we don't get time to answer them specifically. But without further ado, I'll hand over to Pratik to kick us off.
Awesome. Thank you, Jan. I'm very much looking forward to it. So, Wayne mentioned as a part of his introduction around Silence that his first journey or his introduction to AI in cybersecurity started with Silence. And definitely it was a very pivotal moment for the entire cybersecurity industry, because earlier to 2012, earlier to Silence becoming a big name in the industry, artificial intelligence was still being used, but the use case of that artificial intelligence was very limited to creating signatures at a server level, at a very central level. What Silence did in 2012, by using the same AI algorithm that is being used at a central level, at a server level, and use the same technology and capabilities on the agent level or at the client level. And that was a pivotal point when we started using artificial intelligence at a client level, at a local level, so that we are able to, or so that the security agents are able to stop that attack at the agent level rather than taking the retrospective approach of doing signature-based detection. So that is one point I wanted to say, that how AI is being used in the industry since a long time, and the use cases associated with AI is something that we should understand and not use AI as a silver bullet to associate with any problem statement and say that, okay, if I say AI, it will solve all the problems. That is not the case. We should look at the use cases of the security, the challenges that are being faced by security, and how AI can help solve that problem, right? So in Sentinel-1, we take an approach where we understand that AI is not a silver bullet. AI is not something that can solve everything. AI is definitely a big, big factor, and it is definitely going to change the way we do things. But AI certainly needs data. AI certainly needs people, and together this will complete the equation. So, with our approach, with Sentinel-1 approach, we leverage AI, we ensure data accuracy and visibility, and we ensure that data is collected at one place. And we also emphasize on the importance of the AI platform in enabling, in empowering, and in scaling the humans so that we are able to achieve scale in security operations. And this approach will lead to fewer breaches across the globe and faster response and faster mean time to contain an attack across the globe. So focusing on AI, how a capability or a vendor or a security product platform like Sentinel-1 is using AI in order to be prepared to combat cybersecurity and attackers across the globe with which are coming from the evolving threat landscape. So the way we are using AI is in multiple stages. So talking about the very first stage, we use static artificial intelligence or machine learning, and we are using behavioral machine learning because it is no longer about 0 and 1. It is all about the spectrum of gray. It's not very clear. It's not just black and white. It is a lot of spectrum that we need to take into account. And when I talk about it, so nowadays your Word document can be weaponized. Your legitimate applications like PowerShell, your legitimate applications like Adobe Reader, Java, all these can be weaponized and can be leveraged to launch attack in your organization. So you cannot just take an approach that I'll block all Java applications, I'll block all Java runtime, or I will block all the PowerShell applications whatsoever from running. That is where behavioral artificial intelligence comes into the picture, where they are analyzing the behavior of all the applications, operating system components, registry values, process activities, and so many different parameters to see what kind of behavior it is exhibiting. So all of a sudden, let's say that we all are in a room and you invited me as a speaker, but all of a sudden, if I take a gun out of my pocket and try to point at someone, that means I have turned rogue and I need to be controlled right away. I need to be apprehended right away so that so that it does not end up hurting someone. So the behavioral aspects based on different parameters is very important to understand, and that's where the gray spectrum is taken care of by the behavioral AI. At the same time, static artificial intelligence helps you in identifying the code base, understanding that what percentage of code is malicious and what is not. So, if I put that in a perspective, so in a typical endpoint security workflow, this is how AI would help you. It would help you in identifying and stopping the attacks at pre-execution layer to see what kind of or what percentage of the the file or what percentage of the code of the file appears to be a malicious code, and what part or what percentage of the code is benign code. Based on that, it will be able to identify even unknown attacks, irrespective of the signature, irrespective of executing that particular file on the system, and it will be able to block that file from executing in the system. So that is what is the beauty of static AI. Before even the bomb has been detonated or something has started executing, you'll be able to identify that. And it's not foolproof. As I've been talking about the fact that you cannot just put AI in front of anything and say that it's foolproof. In fact, somehow I'm not sure how the conversation of silence started, but I wanted to quote another example. In 2019, silence machine learning algorithm or static AI based machine learning algorithm was bypassed because they were only taking into account the malicious aspects of the file to identify or to convict a particular file as malicious or non-malicious. They did not take into account the benign part of the file, because of which the attackers were able to bypass the static machine learning algorithms on the client. And it is a public news. If you could Google silence machine learning bypass, that will be the first article that would come up, where using a gaming software, they were able to bypass the static artificial intelligence algorithm. That is the reason it's important that you do not just look at malicious aspects, but even the benign files and the code to ascertain whether it's malicious or non-malicious. I already spoke about the behavioral aspect, where so many different aspects of the process activity and stitching of the points together is required to identify the attack as malicious. If an application or if a known person, even a trusted entity, takes a gun out of his or her pocket, that means this person has turned rogue and trying to kill someone, and that is the behavioral aspect that we're talking about. So this is all where AI is helping us. Trillions of data points that you are collecting from so many different sources. An endpoint does so many activities, and then these activities may be generating a lot of individual alerts. But as a security professional, you should not be concerned with alerts, because an alert can be any small activity which is not fitting into the model that you have defined, and it will generate an alert. It should rather look at the incidents. That is the reason AI will help, and AI is helping in our platform to cut down that noise and reduce trillions of data points into alerts, and then those alerts into and stitch them into incidents, so that you know what you are focusing on, so that you know what you want to handle. And same is the concept that David Bianco spoke about in the Pyramid of Pain, where it mentions that all the atomic artifacts and the hard values like domain address, domain IP, domain names, IP address, these are not very good ways of identifying an attack, because the attackers keep on changing their IP address. The attacker keeps on changing their infrastructure. The best way of identifying the attacks is using the TTPs, which is at the very, very top. And this is where you are acting, or this is when you are detecting and responding at an attacker level and based on adversary behavior. And that is what is, detecting at this TTP level is and has been possible because of the artificial intelligence. And that is how it is using it. At the same time, one of the other strong use cases of AI is how, we all are facing a lot of skilled professional or skill set challenges in cybersecurity. We have less and less number of skilled resources, especially technical cybersecurity resources and professionals who can actually go about doing threat detection and response. And when you are able to somehow recruit them, it's very difficult to retain them because of the demand in the industry, right? That's where AI can also play a big, big role in helping you in reducing the talent gap. At the same time, in retaining the talent by making use of the artificial intelligence based automation. So automation can certainly help you in streamlining the operations, to have an integrated workflow, to lower down the mean time to detect and respond to an incident so that the attacker dwell time can be reduced to the smallest possible. It helps you in standardization of the entire process because now you are no longer dependent on the manual tasks, but you are able to do things at scale using the automation. And because of the automation, now the skill set required to to put people at security operations center is much lower because automation can take care of majority of the repetitive technical tasks, because of which the entry barriers have lowered down in security operations center. At the same time, some very technical resources and professionals, they want to all only do very path breaking and groundbreaking work. They do not want to do small alert triaging, and they do not want to do commodity work. That's where automation can take care of the commodity work, and your highly skilled professionals can focus on high risk items so that they can keep their mojo alive, and at the same time, which can help them or which can help the company and reducing these high quality talents and highly skilled talents. So automation and AI based automation certainly helps a lot. At the same time, it does help in reducing the cost of a data breach. So these are the statistics from IBM cost of data breach report in 2022. And if you look at the 2022 results, the organizations who deployed automation completely and those who did not, the cost of data breach is they were able to reduce the cost of data breach by 50%. So that is how artificial intelligence based automation is helping you in reducing the talent, streamlining the operations, at the same time, reducing or retaining the talent in your organization. Now, let's quickly also talk about response actions, because identifying all this while I was talking about identifying the attack, how we are able to reduce the signal to noise ratio, but how quickly are we able to respond to these attacks? You cannot go to a gunfight with a sword in hand. As the attackers are becoming faster with every passing day, you also need to be faster than them, or at least operate at the same scale and speed at them as them. That's the reason we use artificial intelligence in order to automate the response capabilities as well. In Sentinel-1 platform, which Wayne would gladly show you in the second half of the call, is we have something called one-click remediation, one-click rollback, where as we understand an attacker makes several changes on an endpoint in order to launch their attack, and they also encrypt the devices and the files in case they want to do ransomware. So using the automation, it's one-click automation that is patented by Sentinel-1 platform. You can see the scale that we have been able to achieve. On the right-hand side, the screenshot that you see, if 32 machines have been ransomware, it only took 13.5 minutes. I'm talking about, let me use this thing. It only took 13.5 minutes to kill 20,000 malicious processes. 80,000 files were rolled back from encrypted file to unencrypted file. 20,000 changes that were made by the attacker reverts back to its original state with 100% accuracy within 13.5 seconds, 13.5 minutes, pardon me, within 13.5 seconds. And just imagine when you have to do all these tasks manually. So this is the scale that you can achieve with artificial intelligence and the proper use case implementation of artificial intelligence in Sentinel in a platform. I'll take another 5 minutes and not make it too long, because I know we all may be waiting to see all these things in action. And I can see Wayne is also getting anxious about when he can bring his lab up. But the data, but I'll talk about the data aspect. Data aspect is also very important. As I mentioned, AI is as good as the data. And in fact, there are a lot of startups who have started coming in this area where they are looking at securing the machine learning. In fact, the winner of RSA Innovation Sandbox 2023 is a machine learning security startup vendor by the name Hidden Layer. You may want to check the video of or the RSA presentation of Hidden Layer, and you may want to check their website. It is interesting. It is indeed an interesting vendor where they are protecting. They are not securing using machine learning, but they're securing the machine learning algorithm from machine learning data poisoning and whatnot. So data is certainly very important. And the reason why data is important and the role that it can play is we all have been operating in silos. In cybersecurity, the problem is that we have been operating in silos. There is a lot of high volume data, and we are not able to keep up with the scale of the operations. And at the same time, we are very much limited to whatever or one pane of glass view that we have. So in order to break from it, we need to think like an attacker. We need to assume the attacker mindset and act like a defender. Do not act like an attacker, just think like an attacker. And you should be able to see the entire attacker view from where the attacker came in, what domains it moved from one system to another, and the entire journey of an attacker in a storyline manner. And that is what breaking the silos and bringing all the data together does to you, where you're able to see one single storyline and one single pane of glass of all the aspects of the attacker. And that is what, I also talk about. This is one approach that I am talking about across the conferences. In fact, I'm attending the Gartner Security and Risk Management Summit in London around the end of the month. And that's where also I'm talking about the same bring your security forces approach together. We all are operating in silo. We need to bring them together and we need to unify. And that's where it starts with data. All different technologies that you have, you feed all the telemetry into one single unified data lake. Then you perform analytics using your artificial intelligence, behavioral artificial intelligence. Then you should have one dashboard and one single pane of glass so that it can see the entire attacker story in one single screen and then augment it using human augmentation. And that tells you that people cannot be replaced. People cannot be replaced. It is still a very, very important part of the overall cybersecurity equation. People should be used to, or technology should be used to scale people, or rather than the vice versa. If you look at the current technologies that you're seeing in the market, it's people who are driving the tech, and people are the ones who are doing most of the heavy lifting. But artificial intelligence and the enablement of artificial intelligence for fulfilling the use cases, that's where the equation can be turned around, where artificial intelligence would sit at the core, at the center, and it will be technology and artificial platform assisting people. And that is the approach that is very much required in the industry today. And that's the approach that we in Sentinel-1 take. We very firmly believe that the human interface and machine interface and the machine learning and artificial intelligence, they should work together so that the equation of 1 + 1 becomes 5, and it should be able to augment the value proposition for the organization. And this is where you see the technology by itself cannot extract and cannot deliver all the value that you're looking for. You need to have skilled resources who are working on top of artificial intelligence based platform. At least you need someone to click that single button which will trigger that automation. You need someone to create playbooks around it so that it all can be taken care of in an automated fashion. So, and also different level of services that are required for different maturity, for different use cases, which are based on the artificial intelligence platform. So on that note, that's the concept, and that's the approach that we take in Sentinel-1, where AI plus data plus people are working together to deliver a robust cybersecurity platform and peaceful sleep to all the cybersecurity leaders across the globe. On that point, I would hand it over to Wayne, because Wayne would be now able to show all the things that I spoke about on a platform, and you will be able to see the realization of it. Thank you.
Maybe not all of them, but I'll try and show some. Right, so hopefully you can see the SentinelOne console, and I'll quickly jump into the endpoints just to show we can see a lot of endpoints in here across a range of operating systems, right? Windows, Linux, Mac, and Windows Legacy. So it's great to have AI and it's great to have ML, but you need to have good coverage over all your operating system, or all your surfaces, as we call them, including, the cloud native surfaces like Kubernetes, Docker, those kind of containerized environments, but also storage as well. So being able to supply that across all of the endpoint types. So what I've got here is, just to raise the bar, I've actually deployed a cloud native application in a cluster in GKE in Google Cloud. So I've got a cluster, I've got some workloads deployed, and I've got this vulnerable web application. And I've got the SentinelOne agent installed, so you can see these. And I've got a service published for this vulnerable web application. So I'm going to launch this, and then I'm going to try to attack it. On the SentinelOne side, what I've done is I've got a site called Phillips, so SentinelOne is a hierarchical structure, role-based access control, so you can have nice separation of duties. And you can see I've got these agents installed in this Kubernetes environment on the node. So we protect all of the pods and all the containers within that, without having to educate the developers on injecting code into that. So the containers are completely oblivious to the fact that there's security involved. And what I've done is I've created a policy and put it in detect mode. The reason I put it in detect mode is actually SentinelOne is good at protecting, so we'll actually stop the attack pretty quickly, but I'm going to let it play out so you can see all of the detection types, and I'm going to show you which ones of those were static, which ones are dynamic, which ones were AI based. So within this web application, I've got a command injection page, right? So this is an input validation bypass, right? So this field is, you're supposed to put an IP address in, and you're supposed to be able to ping something. So I'm going to ping loopback, and it does what it says on the tin. It pings the address. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break that input validation, and I'm going to pipe to a curl command, curl down a script, and then I'm going to pipe that to a SHA command. So it's going to run this script. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to submit that. It's going to do the ping, but it's also then going to curl down a command or a file, execute that file, and detonate it on this endpoint. So it's going to do that, not completely oblivious to the end user. Normally, in a Kubernetes environment, you wouldn't have tools that are actively looking at attacks. You would normally do that in the endpoint. SentinelOne has a very nice agent that runs in the user space, but talks to the kernel using ePPF, and you can see my script detonating here. And I'll just jump over to the SentinelOne console, and we'll have a look at the incident. So it spat out a few incidents specifically at that time. And you can see this -1 came first. And let's have a look. It was a behavioral AI detection. And the reason I did that, so you can see that there was container runtime. You can see the command and the behavioral AI. So this is basically looking for, if you like, standard deviation out of the norm, but it's looking for behaviors across an attack chain. We've also been able to match these threat indicators. So at the top of David Bryce's pyramid of pain was analytic detections, or threat detections, if you like. So basically turning something that's quite complicated into English. So you can see that the exploit was a service port exploitation that was using suspicious credentials. We tried to do some hard drive mounting, and there was some base 64 obfuscation in there. So you can quite quickly see what the obfuscation, what the exploit was, what the evasion technique was, and what the malware was doing. So you can quite quickly see what was happening here. You can also see the Kubernetes environment and what cloud that is. So you need to know, where this happened. So I'm going to pivot over to the other detection types. So there was There was one that was Sentinel-1 Cloud, so I'm just going to quickly jump into that. So what I've done here is I've pulled down a payload that everyone knows about, right? So it was a static detection, and this hash is a known hash, so I can check that in VirusTotal. Everyone knows VirusTotal. It's a list of all the antivirus products out there. So this should show me that almost everyone was being able to detect this. But what I also did was I obfuscated that payload and I randomized the payload, right? So I was able to pack this payload, and I can now defeat most signature-based AV products because VirusTotal knows nothing about this. So there's apparently no AV out there that can detect, according to VirusTotal, to detect this payload. So it's very easy for attackers to just manipulate the payload to break through anything that runs signatures. And as you can see, Sentinel-1 Static AI was able to pull the file apart, look at the features, create vectors for those, and then match that with a static AI engine and go, okay, that looks malicious, and we gave a malicious verdict here. So this is the difference between sort of signatures and AI. So you can see behavioral AI looking for fileless attacks. And then you can look for file-based attacks. One was signature-based and one was using a static AI model, right? So you can see that dash. The one-click remediation that Pratik was talking about, you can come in here and go mitigation actions. I should show you the attack chain first before I show you that. So rather than just this is an atomic incident, you can actually come in here and have a look at the attack chain. I know this was to do with Dash, so I can just search for that and then just pivot through which version, which Dash it was. And you should be able to, if I go down here, you can start to see the SH8 ping, and then you should be able to see part of the payload in here as well. And then you can see that obfuscated base64 code, right? So, I mean, you can unbase64 encode that and work out what the payload is. But due to time, I won't do that, but we can do that in deep visibility. As part of the one-click remediation, we can remediate these automatically. So I could just set it to protect and automated remediation, but we can do these manually, right? So you can kill, quarantine, remediate, or rollback. It didn't do any rollback or remediation style attacks. So I'm just going to do quarantine, and it's going to say, active attack. And you can remediate that, right? So there's 3 different types of detections there, most of them AI based. I'm going to shut those down. Now I'm going to pivot over to our XDR platform. So Sentinel-1 allows you to bring in feeds from anything. It normally has the EDR telemetry already in, but I'm going to show you here. If I go to vendors, you can see that I've got 12 vendors siphoning in data from, Zscaler, Okta, Active Directory. You can see that sort of vendors here. So this is where generative AI comes in. So I can jump over to Purple AI and start doing a little bit of threat hunting. So things like Lockbit, they use techniques like event viewer tampering. So I'm going to try and see if I can detect using English, find event viewer tampering and group it by username. So I'm just going to use the generative AI. This is switching from the normal threat hunting to just using generative AI, and it produces a filter for me. So this is so I can take that filter if I wanted to. I could create a dashboard from that. I could create an API call from that if I wanted to. So these are reusable, but it's output instantly the users that are responsible for event viewer clearing out, right? So obviously system, there's a reason for that, but this Jean-Luc's pokes out at me here, and rather than just build the query, it's actually analyzed the response and give you a generative AI response. So it says, Jean-Luc has the highest number, and then followed by system. So you can take this as a SOC analyst and put that in your SOC report, while you're, and then it's giving you follow-up questions and then some follow-up actions, right? If you're a visual person, you can have a look at the pie chart and go, okay, well, that looks like the outlier. So now I have the user. Let's find out what machine they are doing this from, right? So I'm going to ask Purple AI, show loggings for Jean-Luc and categorize that by computer name, so I can kind of see where Jean-Luc is logging in from. While I'm still analyzing this data, maybe I want to look in a different way, or maybe I want to take that query and put it in my SOC report. And again, it's spitting out a new query. It's finding out what machines are involved. And again, you can see there's a few, but there's quite a few here, but they all have the prefix of Borg. Again, it's trying to retrieve that information, analyzing the information that's come back. It's given me a couple of machines to look for, but I'm interested in the Borg because that's the highest count, right? And it's given me that response here. So it's found 25 endpoints, the Borg being the endpoint server, and well, you can read yourselves, and it's given me an analysis of the response. So now I can take that and I can look for indicators for that user on that machine, right? So I'm going to say find detailed indicators for Jean-Luc on the Borg, right? So I'm now looking for attack types. So I found the user, I think I found the machine or the main culprit. So now I'm going to look for behavioral indicators on that machine, right? You could do this as a threat hunter, but I'm just showing you how generative AI can help. And this is what you would normally have to do to threat hunt, right? So it's giving you a nice amount of information, and you can scroll down and look for kind of the smoking gun if you like, while it's analyzing the result. And we should be able to see the summary coming up pretty soon. Anything in here? The Borg process resistance is futile. Let's have a look, see if we can see that. See if we can scroll down. I'm looking for something specific, obviously. It's going to give you a better result if I pick something that looks like a smoking gun. There's a lot of Chrome activity. Trying to find something nice for you. Chrome's not a great example to show you, but right, we'll just pick something with PowerShell. All right. So there is, if you look at the indicator names, remote system discovery, account discovery, maybe I'll just pick this one, right? So I'm just going to pick this threat indicator. And this is where you kind of have a look at this PowerShell, try and work out the source and the target to analyze this. But Purple AI is doing that analysis for you, right? So it's starting to do that. So you can carry on and have a look at the analysis and work out what process was involved. You can see the key, the operating system, but it's now doing the analysis. So it's telling you what it thinks PowerShell was doing that at that time, and it has a high level of. So I'm going to. So now we've analyzed the incident. It's actually given us some follow-up questions and also some suggested actions. So one of them is to look, now I know that user is compromised. I'm going to take that and pivot that to an XDR query, which is find out what Loctor loggings exist for Jean-Luc and what locations they came in from. So this is now analyzing the user and saying, where did they log in from? Is there any smoking guns there? Were they logging in from the same place? And this has produced a response, right? So it's brought back my Okta logins, and you can analyze this manually if you want, and then it's gonna retrieve a summary for you. But you can see some of these are from the United States, some are from Russia, and it should be able to analyze this and tell you, so it says it thinks the hometown is Oklahoma, and that's the IP address, but also it's seeing the second IP address associated with Russia, specifically Moscow, right? So being able to analyze this and look for specific attack types based on Russia. Now it's analyzing that response, and it's actually giving me some, it says force a password resets for the user Jean-Luc to mitigate unauthorized access. So giving you suggested actions. Now I could just force a password reset from in here. Now, the beauty of XDR and generative AI is the SOC analyst didn't have to log into Okta. They don't have access to Okta. They don't even know how to use Okta. Well, they don't need to have that, forward ability to do that. They can do it from one platform. On top of that, I'll show you a quick one. Because it's generative AI, you can ask the questions in Japanese, right? So I'm going to ask the same question of, bring back the events for Jean-Luc on the Borg, and it will do that in Japanese, and it will translate the responses and also give you the SOC report in Japanese as well. So it's produced the same report it did earlier, but it's going to retrieve a summary in native language, right? It's generative AI. It is natural language, so it's going to respond in the natural language that you use. So you can use Spanish, Japanese, South Korean, which will speed up the threat hunting if you have teams across the globe, and be able to give you SOC reports in your native language. Just wait for that response, and then I'll hand back over to John to carry on with the questions and answer session. There you go. So it's been able to do that in Japanese and give you the same result, and the suggested actions will also be in Japanese as well. But I won't wait for that to finish, and I'll give you back to John, to Jan, I should say.
Thanks, Brian. That's been very interesting. Your Japanese looks pretty fluent. So while the two of you were speaking, there have been quite a lot of questions in the chat, and I see you've already responded to quite a few of those, but I'll just pick out a few of them and see if we can dive into them a little bit into more detail. The first one was this whole concept of the arms race between us as the security professionals trying to protect our organizations and the attackers who are out there obviously trying to go faster than we are and often seem to be more organized than we are. It's great having platforms and technologies like this, but how can we use AI to become better overall as an industry, or overall working together rather than just all of us individually in our organizations trying to be better?
I'll take that. I think the cat is out of the bag. So we have to use it, just the speed of the attacks coming through. As Pratik was mentioning, the mean time to detection and the mean time to respond. And we used to have this 1-10-60 rule: 1 minute to detect, 10 minutes to investigate, 60 minutes to respond. That's just too long these days. 60 minutes and you're hosed, right? So you have to use these automated tools to do automatic detection and remediation and response, and then investigate at your leisure, right? You need the machines to protect at the same speed you're being attacked. They are using these tools against you. You're going to have to use them in response. How we do that collectively, that's going to be a hard one. Look, we're trying as hard as we can, and we're helping customers do that. But I mean, there's a lot of other companies doing good work in that space. And having conversations like this it is also good to understand.
Do you foresee that we'll ever have some sort of a clearinghouse for AI learning that we can all share and buy into, not necessarily dominated by one vendor?
I think there's always going to be open source intelligence out there, and that will be pools. There is a lot of intellectual property and a lot of money poured into we have petabytes of data, and we've been honing us on machine learning model for like 10 years. So there's a little bit of money we've put into that, right? So we expect a little bit of money back out. So a lot of security vendors are going to be the same, but we do publish a lot. I mean, JAG's just got a nice award from the President of the United States for his contribution to the security industry as a whole. So we do publish a lot, we do share a lot, and we do pump in a lot of threat intelligence to other vendors as well to help the collective, so to speak. But I I guess if you rely on OSINT, then it's going to be you're going to be behind the eight ball.
Another question that was in the chat was more around the human behavior and thinking less about AI as something that's mathematical and mechanical and rules-based, but something that actually can help humans become more human and actually help humans almost transcend to the next level. Pratik, I saw you had a response to that, but do you want to expand on that a bit further?
Absolutely. We have to make it usable. We have to make it user-friendly at the same time. If you look at the examples that Wayne demonstrated and I was explaining, the concept of one-click remediation and one-click rollback. A product platform should understand, or a product vendor should understand, this is how I'm going to make the life of a security professional easier. And this is where, if I apply artificial intelligence, it can take the burden off and it can make their life simpler. So the use and a clear demonstration of how it may impact their workload, how it may reduce the workload is very much important. And putting the use case front rather than explaining, okay, I do supervised machine learning, unsupervised machine learning, I do this analysis and basket analysis without clearly explaining the use case and the usability aspect of it. That's where we fall. And that's where we are not able to, make better use of AI. So it should start with use case.
Someone said to me the other night, what are you going to do with all this time that you're saving? So what do you think that SOC analysts should be doing with the time that they're saving?
Oh, right. It's a never ending. Sorry, Pratik. There's a never ending, like doing high order things, right? Properly analyzing the things they should have been doing rather than playing whack-a-mole. Maybe having better mental health. This is it will just improve the SOC analyst's life. You still have to analyze, even if the machine gives you a nice response. You still have to check the machine did the right thing, but it's going to get you 80% of the way there. So it's going to make your life a bit easier.
So it's not just a tool for lazy analysts.
I actually, the other day I was like, we should be careful that we don't make Purple AI, too accessible, because you will make analysts a bit lazy. But I was working out that with a product manager. Obviously, that conversation didn't go too well. So yeah, we're going to make their lives as easy as we can, I think.
And isn't this just going to be a case of, the more you provide the tools, the more the expectations increase of productivity. And, one SOC analyst will have to do the job of 10.
Yeah, and more look, the incidents are coming thick and fast, right? So it's incidents per hour. Like we have a lot of MSSPs that use our tool, and it's they can onboard more customers and have a better response. And also, I was in Brisbane in a conference, and there was a panel interview, and they were talking about automated response, and they were asking about, well, why would you automate a SOC? And I was like, that you're assuming that you have a team that's awake at 2 a.m. Not everyone has a 24/7 SOC. It's looking at the console 24/7. So there's other people that can't afford one, or are just starting a business, small to mediums, unified commercial size. You need something to automate the response if you don't have people there.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. The cost of a 24/7 SOC is about 3 or 4 times as much as a business hour SOC. So if you can automate some of that out of hours things, then that certainly would make a massive difference to what your SOC is costing you if you're not an organization that necessarily needs that 24/7 SOC.
Yeah, and blending that with XDR, right? So we're seeing a shift from risk-based SIEM data to threat-based XDR data. So bringing the threat data into one place, and then being able to automate some of the responses. You saw me like reset a password in Okta. You can make an endpoint go into a restricted group in Zscaler while you're investigating, and then when you finish, take it out of that group, right? So being able to have one place where you orchestrate all of your threat hunting and your playbooks, it just saves you a lot of time. And again, you don't have to learn how to use Zscaler. Sometimes people would log in, they would put someone in a restricted group, and they may have picked the wrong user, they might have picked the wrong machine, right? So it reduces that human error from that as well, automating this. And also reduces the time you might finish investigating. Then you go to Zscaler again, you have to log in because your session timed in. So all of these little, the things you have to do just burn time.
There's a question in the chat that just came up. Does this eliminate the requirement for basically orchestration tools?
It doesn't, but it can for the most part. It depends what you're doing with SOAR, right? If you're doing, quite elaborate orchestration, then no. But we integrate with things like XOR and other SOAR platforms and Swimlane and that every day. SentinelOne is a headless REST API, so anything you want to do in SentinelOne you can drive from another SOAR platform. And a lot of our cloud native customers use SentinelOne using API. They don't even log in anymore. So they deploy Kubernetes nodes and CI/CD pipelines to deploy SentinelOne, but they also pull vulnerabilities out using API. They also pull asset inventory out using API. So it doesn't eliminate, but it reduces the need to do code reviews, to build SOAR playbooks. We try and simplify or modularize the SOAR actions, so you get a nice kind of menu. And then if you want to do complicated SOAR rules, then you have time to do that because we've automated some of your other work.
Makes sense. We are rapidly running out of time. There have been a few questions in the chat about follow-ups and additional questions about competitors, etc. To make it easy for you, what we have here is a quick poll question. I'll put it up there. If you want to be contacted after the webinar for anything specifically, then please just click on it and we will be in touch. So you could basically just click on any of those questions there, whether you want to connect with Wayne, with Pratik, whether you want to request a technical demo, or whether you want to request more info about SentinelOne. I'll keep this up for 30 seconds or so while I'm talking. Recording of the webinar will also be posted in the hub afterwards and also on the CLI YouTube channel. So for anyone who wants that, so you can follow up for that as well. For those of you who are watching the webinar in recorded form, so we're not here live at the moment, and you can't click on the poll, there will be a form below the webinar in the hub where you can just provide your details and also be able to be contacted to get additional information. And if you can't find that form, just contact any of us. We will also post the LinkedIn connections for Wayne and Pratik in the hub as well, so you can contact them directly afterwards. So lots of different ways you can contact them if you want more information. It really has just been a very nice overview and quick insight into it, but just looking at myself, I want to get my hands on it and play with it myself, and I think most people on this call would feel the same. So I'd really like to thank all of you for attending. This is the largest webinar we've had for a while, and so that shows how much interest there is in the topics. And also want to thank Pratik and Wayne for a very insightful webinar. You managed to cram a lot of information into a very short space of time, so really appreciate that. And I look forward to hearing more from you, and wish you all a very good rest of your day or evening or morning, wherever you are. And for those of you who are watching the Rugby World Cup and are going to have some sleepless nights like me over the weekend, may the best teams win. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Reach out.
Thank you, everyone.